Hello, everyone. Welcome to CHC Talk, Independent in Precarity. Tonight, we will host some of our guests from the region. And before everything, we would like to apologize if there will be any technical issues because of the internet connection. Because as a matter of fact, we are working here from Diocletian's Palace, which was originally not built to host strong internet connections. So sometimes it can go wrong, but hopefully everything will work well. So we won't talk much about ourselves tonight and our initiative, but I will just mention that this talk is part of the project Voids 2021, and this is a project that is now ongoing until Saturday, this Saturday, 20th of February. This session is being recorded on Zoom, and it is also live. Also, it will be available afterwards on YouTube channel. So the scope of this talk was to get to know some of the initiatives from the region. So tonight we have Mac, Sanda, and Olson, who will present their organizations, their initiatives from their respective countries, and why we actually called this event, this discussion like this. So independent in precarity is actually a term that Iliana Fokianaki, who is a curator and founder of State of Concept in Athens, the first nonprofit institution of this kind in Greece. She actually used it during the eFlux podcast in April 2020. The podcast was named The Role of Ideology in Institutions. And we want us, that is the whole another topic, which is of course also related to this one, but that would open up a complete additional set of questions. So we would rather like to discuss the situations that we are in now, and what those situations enable us to do, and also what are their limitations. So we would also like to the term precarity, because this is the term that most of us are familiar with. But it's useful to just read some definitions, and also maybe it is interesting to read them for those who are joining us and who might not be familiar. But it is quite interesting to see what, for example, Wikipedia says. Wikipedia says that precarity is a precarious existence lacking in predictability, job security, material or psychological welfare. While, for example, Cambridge Dictionary for precarious as adjective says, gives two meanings. The first one is to be in a dangerous state because of not being safe or not being held in place firmly, which is interesting. And the second one, being in danger because not firmly fixed, so likely to fall or suffer harm. So I think both of these explanations, all three of them actually are quite interesting situation many independent organizations in Europe and elsewhere are facing. Not only because of COVID, everything that happened during the last year, but also in general. So the talk also will be focused around visual art organizations, but it is of course not limited to those. These initiatives that you will hear about, they all, including us, are using different methods, operating in different spaces, maybe also working with different audiences. So I think it will be quite interesting to hear all of that. Please feel free to pose questions in any given moment. So you can just type them. If you are on Zoom, you can type them here in chat, or you can raise your hand. So if you want to speak, or if you are following on Facebook, you can also write there in chat, and we will read those questions. I would also like to present Christina and Marina, who are here with me. We are all here for the project Voids, which is currently happening. We will be moderators of the conversation. I would like to welcome first Mac. Thank you all, three of you, for actually accepting this invitation and participating in this call tonight. So Mac, the floor is yours. Please tell us something about yourself and the initiative you are presenting.
Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here with you in this weird meeting, because I'm not used to these Zoom meetings, and I hope that we will, as soon as possible, see this as a part of history somewhere. My name is Mac Hubjer. I'm originally from Sarajevo and now currently living and studying in Split. And for the past 5 years, I'm running one initiative in Sarajevo called Brodac Gallery. So it started all in 2016 as an experiment, I would say, to try to make a spot for us, the young artists, in which we can cooperate, work, feel free to do whatever we want, and to make art exhibitions. Sarajevo is a very specific area after all of these conflicts and transitions periods. Wasn't so good place for young artists to develop, to have support, to have the places for development. So it was a need to make a visibility for ourselves, and somehow we founded one space. It was, I would say, now a destiny, what happened in that time, to find a spot in a very centralized area of the city in which we could do what is still happening, a bit slower. So it all started. I will try to share a screen. If I can't, then I will ask some of the hosts, but I think it will work. I think now that you see something. So we found a spot in ex-prison building of Belediye, which means a municipality in Turkish, that is now like a squatted building, actually, since 1950s, in which poor people from this part of the city found a living space, and they are still living. So the gallery is this small room. Actually, it has 30 square meters, and it was once a passage through this building. And somehow we managed to make a useful spot from it to show some art and to experiment in the first place. As what my friend and art historian Irfan Hošić said, that this action, what we did, was an action of social practice. I didn't realize this in the beginning, but somehow we started living with people in this building by just going there and working on our plans, and we became like a part of this community. And we changed this community a lot with just being there and giving them opportunity of something different. Before this, this spot was like a veterans bar, and you can imagine what was happening there and what people were going through, you know, with drunk 50, 60 years old guys who were shooting when they get drunk in the ceiling, or going with loud music for hours and hours after midnight, and it was happening like that for 10 years. So this was a huge change for the whole community, to have an art gallery in one that I would say like a ghetto spot in the city. And it was ups and downs. We had different experiences, good and bad. But now I can see that our actions affected a lot this community, and changed the surroundings and how people feel by just going through the street, or someone who was living there for 30, 40 years now has an art gallery in his neighborhood. And I can say that these are maybe the best things that happened for me in the gallery, and with this initiative. Not the art exhibitions. There were many of these, you know, like probably 60 of them, 65 of individual art shows that we did. We hosted many artists from Bosnia and abroad, and that's like a win on one side. But the bigger win for me was this, what I said, of communicating with people that were living there, and that we changed somehow their lives, you know. And there are examples of people who are still living there, but now living totally different lives, you know, having totally different habits because of this, I could say. So yes, and I mean, it was a struggle to open it, especially in place where you don't have a hearing from community, from organizations, municipality, government to support you. And it was mostly self-organized, everything from making the space good for exhibiting. I will try to show you the first image of the gallery, how it looked when we first got there. So there are many of these images, but I think it's somewhere down. So sorry, just a moment. So yes, basically we few of colleagues and volunteers that were willing to help to push this initiative, to reorganize the space, to make it more comfortable for art. So yes, this was the gallery when we got there. So it was like a abandoned cafe, and easily we first did like exhibition in the place like it was. We just put some works, invited, it was a collective show of 7 artists, and we just started. It was in April of 2016, and after that we just continued doing shows, because I realized that we just have to have like we just have to work, and we just have to continue what we are doing, no matter what. We cannot stop, you know, and something will happen and something will change. And basically just by working, I was like over I couldn't see, you know, all of these struggles happening, you know, with lack of money, lack of support, blah blah blah. Everyone will say that that initiatives are not supported, but actually I realized when you just work, then you overcome these elements, and something will come in return. So, for instance, we sold a lot of works, we made a lot of contacts with international audience. We got some support, not from institutions and governments. We never got this, but it was recognized by some other people, and in the end, something happened. And now I will just try to return to the screen, and yes, I will not take any more time from other people, and probably we will talk after this. introduction more.
Okay, I just have some questions now where you were talking. So how do you finance your? You said you didn't get any support from the city or government or anything. Have you even tried, or was there any reaction from anyone from that side, or how are you? Oh, I understand you are all volunteering there, but you still need to have some funds, I guess.
It was like for 3 years, it was mostly like volunteering, but as I said, like sometimes it happens, you know, like we do a show and after a few days there are like some audience come, some people come to see the works and they buy work or they buy a collection of works. Magical things happen, you know. We were in a situation when we sold like whole show and it was enough to support the artist for a half of year and the gallery for a half of year. So we had ups and downs, but I was always aiming to make a place sustainable, you know, in any way possible. I tried to we also have a non-government organization that was behind it, but in Bosnia, everything is corrupted and you have to be in this corruptional system to be supported by government. And for me it was a dirty game, you know, and I saw that I saw myself like selling a soul to a devil. And as much as we tried, we never got anything. And it was funny to see because there is no many art initiatives in Bosnia. Actually, this is the only contemporary art gallery in Sarajevo. And Sarajevo is a city of 500,000 people, so it's not logical to not get support, you know. But still, they have bigger priorities to support, you know. And I just stopped to beg for money, and because you feel like after some time like you're begging, that you're not asking, you know, to get support for something that you will spend your hours, spend your work time, spend your body, yourself, but like you are standing on a street with your hand, you know, and you're asking for money. So I mean, everything went really good until this corona. And actually I hope that 2020, 2021, 22 will be something more. We had huge plans to organize an art fair in Sarajevo in 2022, and it was something what is now, I think, impossible because of the whole constellation of everything there. So I don't know. I mean, it's a magical spot there where is the gallery. So it's as I said in the beginning, like this ghetto character of the space gave us opportunity to see some other richness, you know, not only in money and in this financial support, and not coming just like by going inside to see the gallery or whatever, because it's just next to the city hall, and in the same time of having some drug dealer in coming inside the gallery and meeting the mayor and hustling something with someone who is there and something like that. So these things that I saw there, I know that I cannot see anywhere else in the city, you know, besides this gallery or a place that is so universal that can host, you know, these so drastic contrasts in the same time.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Maybe we can move now to Sanda.
Yeah, hi. My name is Sanda Kalebić. I'm an art historian here to present U10 Art Space that is behind me. I didn't prepare any kind of digital, you know, share screen material because I'm gonna maybe show you around a little bit. I think it's better. But for the beginning, just a brief introduction to U10 Art Space. It was founded in May 2012. And it was founded by 7 young artists who just at the time had graduated in painting from the Faculty of Fine Arts here in Belgrade. And at the time, let's just say that it was a little bit different, like the situation with galleries and art spaces here in Belgrade. I think that now it's a little bit better because in the past like 5 years or maybe less, a lot of places opened, commercial, non-commercial ones. But at the time, back then, it was almost 9 years ago, they kind of felt that they didn't have a place where to show their art as not students, because we have some student galleries. And also, I mean, there were artists who never had their solo show, they were just starting. And some places were more kind of reserved for artists who already have some kind of a career. So there was some kind of a gap, let's say, you know, what to do if you're super young, but you're not a student. So they decided to open their own space, and they did. At the beginning, it was, the plan wasn't kind of to have it for almost a decade now, but to open a place that's gonna maybe work for 6 months, and then maybe it's gonna change after that. And in the beginning, they organized first a group show of the 7 of them plus a couple of other artists, and then each of them had a solo show. And also they started inviting other young artists, their friends that they knew, and it was kind of the plan for the first couple of months. But after this first couple of months, it's obvious that this kind of place was needed in Belgrade, and more artists kind of wanted to show their work, and it's kind of just, you know, the word spread. So the place just kind of continued to exist until now. And the main focus, as was then, now it remains to be, you know, to show the work of emerging artists. Of course, during this time, it's changed a little bit in a way that more regional artists were introduced, and also international artists, collaborations, and so on. But kind of this basic remained the same, and that is to show young and emerging artists, to help artists kind of to have their first shows. And U10 is not kind of strict in those ways. We show a lot of things. Artists have liberty to do, I mean, what they want. So that's kind of the basics. Of course, how the program was chosen in the beginning of this kind of by invitation. It's worked for a couple of years, but as U10 kind of started to develop, it needed to reform in a way. So a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2017, for the first time, we decided that it is not necessary, it is not enough just to have these artists coming to us or us kind of informally, you know, coming to them, but we decided to open a call that's going to be temporary, and that was the way kind of to also invite new artists, because as I said, we started in 2012, but up until 2017, this kind of U10 generation already became not maybe super established, but they were not super young anymore. So for the past 4 years, we have this open calls, and we had like really brilliant and a lot of people who were applying, and we had like 150 applications, like even more, I think, the first time, which was, I mean, we were super, you know, happy about it. This is one thing. Another thing is that we kind of also started collaborating with other initiatives from abroad, and also U10 Art Collective, apart from hosting shows here, also sometimes shows their art abroad or organize exhibitions abroad. And so far we had shows in the region, like in Slovenia and Romania, Bulgaria, in, I don't know, Hungary, but also in France and Germany, Switzerland. So of course, we have to mention Corona. So now it kind of stopped all this, maybe international collaboration is a little bit slowed down now, but that's something that we definitely plan to kind of continue. I mean, we hope when this ends at some point, we hope soon. Actually, we had like 150 shows by now, because our program is pretty dense. We have 15, or even I think 1 year we had 18 shows a year. And so our kind of program is pretty quick. Every 3 weeks we have a new one. So it's kind of, we're like in some super fast pace of our program is like really, filled with everything. And also, apart from, of course, having shows, we have a lot of additional programs. For each show, we have art talks, and we generally have performances, other talks, and presentations, and so on and so on. Some other things that are also super important for us, and especially since we're kind of focused on young artists, is that we publish these biannual catalogs, which I think are really important. I mean, they're like printed version. This is gonna be like super analog because I'm gonna show like this, you know. Because we of course publish some kind of small brochures for each show, but this is like the real deal. So this is what we do every 2 years that we didn't do last year, of course, because of Corona, but we're going to do more. So I think this is really important, as you know, kind of being the print, you know, version of everything that happens, and it's a real kind of archive document, you know, that people can keep and that it stays. I mean, of course, apart from having archive of everything that we do on our website, that, I mean, of course, everyone can check out because we have everything there. I mean, all the photos of all the shows and so on. But maybe I can show you the space a little bit because it's like pretty actually big, which is super cool. And as you can see, now we have a show of a young artist she's from Serbia, but she lives in Belgium. Her name is Sanda Kalebić. The show is called Talking Fibers. It's pretty cool because she does this kind of super technique of printing her personal photos, and then she prints them on like a regular printing paper, but then she cuts them and puts them back together like in the same way, I mean, like order they should be, but because they're cut and stick together, this kind of narrative, let's say, is being lost. So it really looks a little bit like a fiber. I mean, it's really brilliant. And so this is kind of it. I don't know, this is it for the beginning. Maybe if you have some, you know, questions, you can ask.
Well, maybe at this point, the same question as to Mac. How are you funding yourselves?
Well, our kind of basic funding and the way that UTAN was founded in the beginning was this artist that founded it. They got in collaboration with this private, you know, businessman who was actually our, I mean, patron, supporter, and also our partner in everything that we do. So this is kind of the basic funds that we have for the space, for utilities, for printing these small catalogs, also the big ones. But also we don't have, but also money for production that is not very big, and we generally do everything super low budget. I mean, when it comes to the show production, but we, for the past, I think 5 years or maybe even more, we regularly got some money from Ministry of Culture. That is not that big because, as I said, we have so many shows that when it's just splits, it's, I mean, not like a super big amount of money, but it means a lot because it enables us to do at least kind of this basics. And of course, for some shows, we sometimes have some additional sponsors, but we generally don't have like this, we're not like project funded, you know, we don't apply so much to projects, but we kind of raise funds individually for each show when we can.
Thank you. That's super interesting. Okay, if you don't have more questions at this point, maybe we can go to Olson. Hi.
Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm also Lamaj. I'm from Albania. I'm an artist, but like many artists in our region, even I have experience with working with artisan space or collaboration or curating, because what I see in similarity in all our region, that artists in our region cannot stay only to work in their studio, but they have some kind, it comes out that they have obligation even to start building this art scene. So I see this similarity in Bosnia, in Serbia, in Croatia. So this is very interesting how artists in our region at least cannot focus only on their work, but still they have to work behind one building an art scene. And this you can see it when the artists start curating, or when the artists create new initiatives, and when the artists become art management or everything else. So this is it's nice to see this solidarity with artists. And going to my case, I have run an artisan space that's called Misa for 4 years, but Misa now doesn't exist anymore. This for a lot of reasons that all we can understand. But the things that happened during Corona, it was very interesting in our case, because me and my friends, we start reflecting what to do something different in a time when we don't have a space, when we don't have money, and you are struggling inside your house with a quarantine. So we try to start a new initiative that was in our mind somehow, but we never have the courage. But now that we were closed in our home during quarantine, we built it additional or editorial of zine that is a new way of communication. And me and some other friends, artist friends, we started this initiative during July 2020. And it was very interesting because we started working by ourselves, and we created the first number of our editional that is called Pandemic Time. So we put a issue, and each artist from each home started working with this issue. I can show you this special edition, and here you can see in physical the first number of Pararoja. Pararoja in Albania, it means avant-garde, and this is because I think we had this name that we didn't use so much, so we thought, let's make this name be more in our language. Put this. And we together with three other artists. It's me, Berta Hocia from Albania that now lives in Kosovo, Lydia Costandini, and Driton Selmani. So each of artists started making his own way, how they are feeling this kind of situation. So they started making a PDF with their photo or drawing or I think so. It's free. So it's like it's a curated additional. So each of the artists can make their own zine. I can share you some of the photo of how it looks like. Can you see? Can you see?
Yes, I see.
Okay, so we opened this after, I think, after some months, we opened this, we show this work. So we invite all the artists in one bookshop, and that is called Berg, new art space for books and for artists. So, and there in this garden, we show our zines. So each of the artists tries to find a way how to experience this. For example, Berta Hocia, one of the artists, she was more interesting to this topic of the Albanian theater, how it was destroyed during the pandemic time. Lydia Costandini was more focused on how to escape from a pandemic time. So she was doing with drawing and other things. And Driton Selmani was more interesting on the image that he produced during this time in herself or in his diary. So each of the artists try to be personal and sometimes to be creative in this way. It's very interesting the fact that we started to have a new way of communication. So I came from a part of visual artists, so always working with a white space. And this kind of new initiative is very interesting because you are now working with another medium that is this books, artist books somehow. And you have this challenge and at the same time, this kind of struggle that you have to work with this book in new medium of communication. But at the same time, it's a new public because a book can travel differently. You can buy it online and you can have it in different country. So it's a curated exhibition in a book. And this makes it more a different way of making exhibition. So for me, I think it's a new way, this kind of initiative. And we are very happy that we are now working with a second edition that talks about the street. So there are four other artists that are working on this topic. And I think after 1 month, we will have other zines. So zines, like many of you may know, are not familiar in Albania, but in other country are more famous because they are made by photocopy. And these zines are some kind of they are produced with photocopy, but they are like books, artist books. So this in general, and we support ourselves with this. So we put our money to produce them, and during the opening or on selling them online, we support the next production.
Thank you, Olson. Can you tell us just a little bit more about the distribution, the ways? Maybe because you mentioned that, but how are you reaching your audience? Because you were a relatively new initiative,
we first make an opening in this publish house that was Berg, that was new. This because it's always better when you have an opening to sell the books. But when you sell it on a published house, you have to pay the published house. So it helps for the publicity, but for the income, it's not the perfect way. At least when you don't have it your own, when the people don't buy directly to you. Most of them are selling online. Well, people can order them online or by our friends who can ask us friendly to sell the books. So it's some kind of, I think with Instagram and I think even our network, because each of artists have his own network or his own art lover. So somehow it helps that each of artists start bringing other friends to buy the books.
Thank you very much. This was super interesting to hear all three stories. Now to encourage a little bit the discussion among ourselves, you know how this question of space is super relevant in all our contexts and how difficult it is to actually get the space. So we would like to go back a little bit and try to talk about that, about the challenges that you had just to get the space and how the process went, how long did this take? Because we are also now in the kind of similar position of trying to get that more permanent space. As you know, we are using this project, which is temporary occupation of spaces. And this is not only for us to do what we would want to do in our future more permanent space, but it's also kind of an initiative through which we are building our community and trying to see and experiment a little bit and seeing what works, what doesn't, and what actually engages people most. most. But the question of space is kind of, it comes up very often because it's not super easy to try to, you know, compete with all of these spaces which are usually converted into something that is destined for tourism purposes, especially in our context here in Split. It's a city which is very much focused on tourism. So for us as young organization, well, not that young anymore, we exist for 4 years already, and we are really now trying to get to that point in which we can get the space. So I would like to ask one of you, if or three of you, if you could share a little bit about the process that you went through to start having a more permanent space to work. Maybe Mark, if you want to start, as you were the first one.
Thank you. Well, I could say that I had, we say nafaka, but it's a luck or a good fortune to have to get this space in a way that, as I said, Bosnia is a very confusing country when it comes to this bureaucratic things and, you know, paperwork and stuff. So I don't know actually how I got this space. I can thank to my father mostly, because he was one that pushed me, you know, like, that's an opportunity, let's try to rent it. Before that space I was running like something like a cafe library, and I went like in a bankrupt totally. And I had to change something, you know, and I had a will to open an art gallery or an art space, and just by luck I found this space on a list of spaces that was rented by municipality. And because this building was a ruin and no, it wasn't so attractive to investors or people, because they had to put a lot of money inside. No one was competing for it. So that was my luck to get the space, you know, and somehow to have it still, you know, to pay the rent for it, the bills, and to sustain or just having it. But it also brought a question to me, you know, how important is this physical space in a way of a long-term planning? Is the project or our ideas so much depending on a physical space, or it can be developed through something else and transferred in any kind of space? Is it a public space, something what we are gaining to be or to make from this? Because I was trying to take a private space, you know, which was on my name, and to make it public as I could do, you know, to make it like open for people. So somewhere I started thinking, you know, like, we don't need a space in a way, and from this perspective now I support more the idea that you're doing now, you know, of occupying the spaces and using them for a purpose, and then going to another spot. Because when you have a space and when it's permanent, then it's like a chain on your legs, you know. You have to do some always something new, you know. From one perspective it's a good thing, because it's pushing you, you know, to work, to put some content in it, you know, to make exhibitions or events or whatever. But on another way, you're like, it's like forever. And it's somehow in art it's good to feel freedom, you know, and when you feel the weight of a space, it can be a 30 square meter, it can be 100 square meter, but I think the bigger it's space, the bigger it's the bigger our chains, you know, and also the expectations that you have to fill it in with something always, constantly. So I'm somehow on a balancing in between, you know, like, do we need a space, or do we just need to work? You know, we can do wherever. The context of art exhibition is like what people are used to see, you know, like of going to a specific spot, you know, and entering something and seeing something. That's exhibition for wider masses, you know. But from a perspective of an artist, I think space is something what is just bordering us.
This is super interesting. We were just talking about that the other day, because we were always a nomadic organization. So for us, it was moving around, not even only in Split, but also in other cities in Croatia was really an advantage. And we took this not having a space as a huge advantage because it allowed us also to connect with other people. And many other people also opened up their spaces to us. So this was kind of a great thing as well. So we never saw it as a huge handicap. And then now after 4 years, we are kind of longing for something that is a little bit more permanent, but not in a way that it's gonna be forever, as you say. It's always nice to keep this little flexibility there, and especially when it comes to these kinds of situations like the COVID that happened, we saw how having spaces is really, it's a fragile thing to rely on a space. So basically by looking at the community and really trying to have people at the center, then you will always be sustainable in a way. This is kind of maybe it's an idea that I would like to believe in, but I think that if we invest in people first rather than the space, then we will always be able to go further. And if we take the space as something that is our basis and we depend on it, then this is not a really good model. And I think a lot of cultural organizations saw this burden happening, and they are now thinking of these new business models in a way, or operational models that can happen so that you don't really depend, you don't end up in a situation in which you cannot then continue your work just because you had this chains, as you call them. So it's an interesting way to see it in a way that the community is kind of at the core, your audience or your artists or whoever that is, and then the space is something that comes more in a complementary way. I don't know, Sanda or Olson, what do you think about this?
Well, for us, it's, I mean, it's kind of the same what Max said, that this also, we were really lucky in finding this space, and it's also owned by the city, by the municipality, whatever. So even like renting it is, I think, it will be much more expensive if we would rent it from some private owner, because this is not like a commercial price, although I think that it kind of doubled, I mean, in this past couple of years, because I think they're trying to kind of kick out culture stuff and maybe make some, you know, put some commercial places here. But I mean, we were really, really lucky. And this space, I mean, it's really huge, especially like for an artist run space, and some other spaces in Belgrade that are really super cool, but they're all smaller, you know, so it has like 130, 40 square meters. And also like the ceiling is like 4 meters. So it's really kind of a trademark. I mean, just, and we're able to organize really huge like group shows and have some fantastic installations because just the space can support those kind of things. So it's yeah, really cool. But I mean, of course, another stuff, we are not going to complain a lot, but since we have such a huge space, doing everything here is so expensive. And this space, of course, didn't look this like this when we first entered it. Like the floor was half, I don't know, wood, half concrete, and we moved some walls and stuff. And this is a really old building. Like we use, I don't know, a quarter of our like budget that we get from ministry just to paint the walls, because it's insanely, I mean, expensive, because it's such a, you know, big surface. So, I mean, it kind of, it gets positives and negatives, but also the space is in the center of the city, but it's also not in like the main street. So I think that's why maybe we're not so interested. I mean, people are not so interested, and we're not kicked out of here because, but we're here, but we're not like super in the center. And we also have this kind of small park in front, which is pretty cool because, I mean, it's something that we like so much now during Corona. And these are these openings that you tend, especially like the first spring openings or summer openings. I mean, there's like 100 people in the park, everybody. It's like a, you know, it's sometimes really, it's like a party, you know. It's just kind of, we don't know how, you know, people come, they bring their own drinks and we just have fun. So, I mean, this space is really, I think, in a good position, and the space itself is pretty cool. So, I mean, of course, it can be a burden, as you said, but in another way, and we were closed for like 2 months in last spring. So it is, you know, it can be complicated, but on the other hand, it's such a rewarding thing to have a space like this. And I think it can be used beautifully to show art.
it's interesting the question that what makes the what is the importance of the art of the space on making art. So I think this question have to make it each of our organization. So what is the importance of the space, and at the same time what is the importance of the people who are, because the space is made by people. It's like the house. So it's important, the building, the house, the wall of the house, or is the people who are inside this house? So which make the family in general. And the same thing, I think, if you think about creating or art scene, what makes the art scene? Is the wall of the gallery or the program that you bring inside? And if you think of a model of organization, is you have to invest in the two in the same way how you invest on the space, even to the program. And at the same time, you can see it during our the exhibition or project or anything. So this question is very interesting, and for me in this, because I've tried to run an art space, and like an artist, we, not me, but all artists are very, for us it's very important, the meeting with the public, having this kind of discussion during our opening, because it helps even our work mature, but at the same time create network. It's a way how we get inspired during going to the exhibition. So it's going in an exhibition, it's not only the work, but it's all the process that you go there. But at the same time, this what happened in I think sometimes, and this I think what we are questioning, is that this became a model that we copy, or some organization copy without thinking what they are doing. And this model, you see, that doesn't work. Even that it's a huge space, a beautiful space, but it doesn't work because they are not reflecting the context that they are working. And this, it's like when you are making a chic bar in places that it doesn't reflect the bar. So I think all this, when you work in a project that are art basis or related to the area, we have to go what would the area need. And I think if the initiative started from what the area need and what the art scene need, I think we can find solution. And I think artists are very creative in finding solution. And I think nowadays, like cultural hub Croatia is reflecting what in this time the city needs, are making this model, but this model cannot be the perfect model for each of our city or each of our country. So I think we have to reflect more on what we need or why we do art, than which is the best model or which is the important of the
also mentioned our approach that started from the local community and from every community where we made our activities. So even in this project, Voids, we have this big importance on the local communities, not only individuals, creative people, but also different NGOs and collectives. And we've seen that not only the artists, but also all of them have this huge need for space, but this space needs to reflect their needs and needs to answer to their needs. So we are having this whole program strand where we give these spaces to locals for them to organize different activities, being it workshops, different discussions, or presentation exhibitions. So I was wondering, Mark, you said at the beginning that opening this gallery in some sort of, let's say, ghetto area really changed the life and living experience for the local community. So I was wondering, maybe a question for all of you, what is the role of local community, maybe from the beginning when you were starting with your space, but later, are they included maybe as organizers for some activities? Do they have some channels through which they can share their opinions and maybe share their needs, so you can adjust your programs according to it?
Or if I can just add, because it's similar question, so you can see, did you work in an artistic way with community?
Well, am I on mute? Yes. I think more important in this relation with community is that we ignore all art and everything related to it, you know. For most of these people, it's not important, you know. Maybe we can include it in our practices and whatever, but then I would more see it as like we are doing experiment with these people, you know. Like most of the people don't understand what we are doing, you know. They don't understand the language of art and what we want to say. And I think that would just be a using of the people, you know. I experienced this change in community by being the part of the community, you know, living with them, you know. I spent so much time in this space, and not only me, but more people, that we started living there, you know, like co-living. I live their problems, they live my problems. They don't have I don't know, electricity, we give them our electricity. We don't have electricity, they give us our electricity. We need to take care of our neighbor's son because he has to go to chop the woods and to bring them, and then we go to, I mean, living with them, you know, sharing their problems and their experiences and happiness with them, and everything. That was the effect that we had by coming and putting our energy and our intentions in living with these people. I mean, it did affect art in a way of what changed us as an artists by sharing experiences, you know, with them and seeing the other perspectives of living with these people, you know, and it affected. And I saw this afterwards, you know, like in some other actions that we did something good, and also it did something good for us, you know. It changed me. We didn't try to put the borders between us and those people, you know, but just open door and let's live. And it was us and me that had to adapt to this, you know, because I came in a place where I didn't know what's happening. I didn't know people, and it was their habitat. They were living there for 50 years, you know. And in the first, I saw that we have to adapt. We have to learn how these people live, you know, what are their habits, what they really want, you know, from this. And we did adapted our approaches in art to them, you know, to make it more understandable to these people, you know, because I wanted to have on our openings, I wanted to have all of these people that are living in this building or coming to this area not to hesitate to enter the art gallery. Most of these people never were in the art gallery, you know. They don't know what is art in this sense, you know. But so I wanted to use the opportunity to soften this this sense for them, you know, when they come to an art gallery for an opening, when they see, you know, all the bougie stuff or some people nicely dressed, you know, that they don't have to run from this. No, enter, it's also a place for you, you know, you can be here, we are all equal in this way, you know, art is for everyone. And that was my intention, what I wanted to use in this situation, you know. Maybe we could find a space in some nice place, you know, where everything is like, okay, people are, you know, used to this stuff, but this way was more interesting and more fun than to be in any other, you know, that someone gave me, you know, golden space with whatever I want and a full budget for everything. It wouldn't be so interesting, you know, like what this struggle was.
Well, yeah, I think I can maybe continue. Well, I think again it's the same as Max said. I think like generally people are from like this super local community, but also are not maybe so familiar with, you know, art, especially contemporary art. And this is like an artist-run space that's a little bit experimental maybe. So I don't think that naturally they don't feel very welcome. But then again, that is our kind of job to, you know, welcome them here. And what is super interesting when we're like looking this micro community is that just next to us, we have a technical high school. And these, I mean, pupils that go to the school, they went to elementary school before where they had maybe like art class, but it was just painting. And then they went to technical school where they don't have any art at all. So they never had any kind of art history lesson or anything like that in their lives, probably, or most of them. So it's, you know, it's super interesting each time, you know, they're there because they're in front, and then they usually have some comments, you know, and I can hear them from the inside, of course. And it's usually like, you go inside, no, you go. Like they're, you know, collecting the courage, and then somebody who's like super courageous, he goes inside and he's like, what's this, you know? So, but they always, you know, are glued to something that's kind of explicit. If it's sexually explicit, oh my God, they love it, you know? They enter and they're like, why do you have a dildo in this painting or something like that? So it's always like super, super interesting to talk to them and to kind of just, and I always, of course, like to pose questions because they are always asking like, I mean, it's usually they have this kind of negative feeling, like this is not art, what is this? This is ugly, blah, blah. But then after literally 5 minutes, I mean, they're like, okay, yeah, maybe. So, I mean, like for this kind of super local context, it's just super cool to welcome these pupils, and they sometimes come also with their teachers, which is for them like a way to escape classes. So they're happy to come here. But I think that, you know, little by little, they kind of, this is a way for them to actually enter the gallery, because I don't know if they are going to do that in any other context. And also we had some, I know, guys who were shooting some movies, so we were kind of tech support for that. I mean, stuff like that. So it was pretty cool to hang out with them, definitely. And they, I mean, I really miss them now when the school is not open because of Corona, you know. So and now a couple of days ago, the new semester started and they're here. So I'm super happy, you know, kind of to hear their comments about the shows. And they're like really, you know, super critics of art.
Thanks. Also, maybe you have maybe with Pararoja all your experience with Misa Gallery. How did you have any projects, or do you maybe envision with Pararoja to include community more, or how do you work with the audience in that way?
I'm in fact interested on finding new audience. I think nowadays I'm more reflecting on the fact on more like a curator that wants somehow to find new audience. And I think we all, like artists that are producing art in this kind of situation of when there is struggle on traveling, meeting people, we have to start even a new way of even representing our work. So I think this kind of difficulty have to help us to find new way of representing our work. For example, I think we find this kind of editorial a new challenge to bring art in another public that are not the public of White Cube Gallery or this that go to the opening, but the public that maybe live in different area or that are more interesting on these books, on the people who have one book in their library. So this kind of people. And I mean, I would like even to see this kind of reflection even to the art organization, because I'm a little bit always questioning not to be the same, to repeat the formula. It's nice to, when something it works, we have to continue and to always to have this kind of good vibe on working on this formula. But when the situation change, like we see now with Corona time, when you don't have theater, when you don't have movie, when you don't have festivals and all those things, how the art scene can change or can find new solution. I cannot see yet to the artists, but I see sometimes some only small people, a small group of people that are reflecting this. And maybe I can say that I'm interested to find to use this kind of situation to find new formula. So this of additional was one formula, but can be other things. So we see now virtual talk like this that we see 1 year ago. This can be together in a room. Now we are online, something that it was not impossible because it was possible with technology, but it was not the time or the struggle that put us together. So I think we have always to change in a sense of our time and not to continue with old formula. I don't know how even Cultural Hub Croatia is reflecting this, but even other like U10 or MAC are reflecting in our space the situation of our time.
Yeah, thank you, Olson. That's really interesting. And also, I think your project and your initiative, it's very interesting in a way to see what are the alternatives and how can we work with art and even without fulfilling all these conditions that needs to be fulfilled, let's say, in a traditional sense of operating an art space, on an art organization. So, and of course, with COVID and everything that has changed in last year, everyone needed to adapt, and virtual world has its own limits. I mean, virtual will never be the same as in person. So I think that your initiative, for example, it's really an interesting and great way to actually to work independently of these external conditions that are quite endangering the whole field. We were also thinking a lot about this, especially because our project, this one, had to take place during winter. And we were expecting lockdowns and measures taking place. So, and also with travel bans. So, to be honest, we did think through some alternatives, but they were not maybe. It was always, to have to broadcast the artistic talks or talks like this, to have open studios in a way that people can, that is durational, that people can come throughout the day. So we don't have openings or gatherings. We making things, putting emphasis on process and making things available during the prolonged period, so that we can host more people in the same way that we can respect all the measures. We also, I must say, we had some luck because we managed to host people from neighboring countries that were not EU, so that was an additional problem. Yes, I mean, it was really challenge to do things this way. And what I wanted to maybe ask you next, Sanda, you mentioned that you have open call, but maybe for Mark and Olson, you can maybe say more about how do you choose the artists that you work with? Do you also have some sort of call, or is it by invitation, or what are your plans for the future? How are you planning to work with this? And do you have some sort of like artistic direction in which your organization wants to go, in a way that you will follow some agenda, and that you sat down and really thought through what kind of art do you want to show, what do you want to say with your program, and in that way. So maybe if you can elaborate more that. But I also want to invite people to join if they have questions, because here in Zoom I see that there are also some people that have their own spaces, and they work with other small galleries and initiatives. So please feel free to jump in with questions.
Olson, do you want first? Thank you. Well, I think like this curatorship and all of these things were less important to me, you know, from beginning when I started with the gallery. I mean, I like to work on it like it's a puzzle, you know, to make some plans, you know, like for group exhibitions, for instance, to find a subject and to play. But personally, I don't like this game, you know, and I always like to give opportunity to people that are educated directly for this or have their own intentions to work on organizing the program for the gallery and to invite artists. But most of the program happened by chance, you know, like people coming, inviting themselves, asking if they can do exhibitions, you know. We hosted many artists that came to us, you know, like with intention to do exhibition. Not all, of course, we cannot make exhibition for everyone, but most of it happened by chance. I mean, my intention was to support young artists, to give them opportunity, but also to show good art, to show good ideas, not depending on the year of the artist. Is he older, younger? I didn't care, and I don't care now also. So I never had, you know, like organized program. We had every year open call for artists to apply for a next year exhibitions, and then we made a selection, but never by the subject, you know. It was never like this year we do only this, and then we invite only women artists, or we do this. So it was always very colorful, and I like it that way, you know, to have different ways, to have full contrasts in exhibitions, you know, like one exhibition is this, but another one is totally something different. And it's somehow my way of experimenting, you know, to put totally different things, you know, in a perspective of the gallery. So yes, but for the future, I don't know, this pandemic and everything teach me, you know, that there is that you cannot plan anything, and you cannot rely anymore on anything. So, and also it gave me a question of the content, that when this started, the pandemic, and I mean these lockdowns in February, March and stuff, everyone started panicking, you know, like oh my God, how are we gonna show our stuff, blah blah blah, and people just started making content, making. We also did the project of art in isolation by showing live stream exhibitions or something from artist studios every 5 days. We did this on the channel of the gallery, but then I realized, like, stop, like, what are we doing, you know, like, why are we doing this? What is the purpose of just making the content, you know, like it's the panic in us that made it, you know, like this feeling of not having freedom of doing all of these stuff. Then we started, you know, expressing ourselves more and more and more. So I think that I'm going to use this time to analyze all of these elements, you know, what is the best strategy for the future, you know, what is the best strategy for art. If we are talking about art, then is it to be in the gallery? Is it to be in the book? Is it to be online? What is the thing with this content? Do we need so much content, or now do we have opportunity to choose wisely, to choose better than we did before?
With Pararoja, I think we are always trying to by going creating. So we put the topics, we unite together with other artists that we are founder. So we came across and what is the topic that we are working to, and even when we have it our art space, we always gather to discuss what's going on with what we are working to. So it's very, I'm always more interesting to hear from my friends and this kind of discussion idea. And because we are still active artists, so we make exhibitions, so we are even somehow by advising other artists, in the sense that if I go in an exhibition, I meet some other artists, or if I see online, I can advise, so can we invite this artist, or something like this topic was very interesting in this exhibition. So I think this kind of art world, especially now with internet and with our network, it grows up. But always I'm more, I'm less on this open call that is open for all people, because in the end, I'm more interested in the quality. So if you need quality, this doesn't mean that if you have an open call, you don't have quality, but somehow you'll struggle a lot on selection. So it's better if you go on your taste, and sometimes the way it's like everything, it shows your taste. Can be an art space, can be a book, can be an exhibition, but somehow by how much you put on this initiative, on this project, you can see it in the end of the project. You can see it, or how even how fair are you with the chosen, if you choose friends only because they're friends or because they make a good work. So this kind of way I like it to discuss and to have it during all the process. I think growing up and maturing, I'm more interested in curating and being more selective. So I think we are, like Mark was saying, we are living in a world when we make a lot of content. So now I think we have always and always more necessity to be more sure what we make, and this what we make, we have to be good, because it's enough things. It's like photography, that it's a lot of photography around. So now we have to see why we have to make a photography, because there are a lot of content. If you go online, if you go on websites, so every artist have now websites. So now it's more, and even the public are, I think, or the public that follow us in our initiative are more interesting when we create something, and when we are more selective than when we are open for everything, even something that is not good or something is not bad. And I'm more interested even more and more on the topic, because I think how we are living our society, we cannot fill every gap of art walls. So I think we have to go selective in one kind of topic, and we can go, every artist try to say a point of view of this topic. So even with Pararoja, we started with this how we feel pandemic time, and now we are going to the street, how the artists are feeling the street in a time of pandemic, but even in time in our everyday life, going to work or going traveling, or now that we have stopped traveling, or our urban space. So we always try to find a topic and to find interesting artists with different point of view, more than with the quality of art craft.
Thank you so much for this. I think this was super interesting and relevant at this point to talk about this, and it can be a topic for its own to talk about this content production, the kind of also the pressure, and as well now in these times, especially this mass content production that is happening, and how this defines what we actually want to do and what we how we shape our programs. It's also nice to see how we are all similar and different at the same time. And I would like to now maybe ask you guys if you have any questions for yourselves. It would be also, I know that not all of you know each other from before, so maybe this can be, if in the last 5 to 10 minutes, maybe we can dedicate it to open the floor for yourselves as well. Do you have any questions about your practices and something that you would want to know more? Since the audience didn't have a lot of questions for you.
There is one question, sorry. Boyan has a question.
Hello, everybody. Do you hear me? Yeah, I just wanted to say that I feel encouraged by your talks because I'm coming also from one independent small gallery in Koprivnica, Croatia. Currently, I'm here in Split. I'm having my open studio here in one souvenir shop. And I just found out 1 hour ago that right next to our gallery, which is placed in former military, kind of it's a vast space where you can freely roam through woods. There are a lot of old buildings from the military. It's quite Wild West in a sense, but it is a good place on the edge of town. And we just find out that they are building a gas station right next to our gallery, and also around 200 meters from the gallery is a place for, how do you say, asile, if you know what I mean, for cats. So between the gallery and the asile, they are building a gas station. And why am I saying that? Because we have been in that building for about 9 years now. Gallery is working for the last 8 years. It's a building of about 400 square meters. It has about 9 to 10 studios for the local artists, and one of the studios was transformed into gallery. And we have invested much time and money to make it just doable, because it's a rough place. I mean, the walls are from wooden panels. It's not even brick or concrete. It's just wood. It's an old building in a very rough shape, and for 8 years we have invested in it. And now we are in danger of losing it. I mean, we just 1 year ago we got some money for spotlights. It's just basic stuff. And now we don't even know what will be with that building. So I'm so for the past hour, I was in a very bad shape because of the new gas station situation. But I was encouraged by your talk, especially with Olson, who said that space is people. So maybe this new situation, I mean, precarity is here always. It's just around the corner. It's not just COVID. It's the government is the money, it's the gas stations, it's everything, yeah. So I actually got some new ideas what to do if we actually lose the building, you know. So thank you everybody. And on the topic of choosing artists, so we had an open call for the last 2 or 3 years, and what we see now is that those kind of calls are a lot of work, and in the end you get probably the same thing you would choose yourself. So I mean, this year we got around 60 applications, and which chose 5 artists which we all personally know. We know their work, their quality. So I mean, if you don't choose a specific artist for this year, he will be around for another year. So my take on this is don't do open calls. Yeah. Thank you.
I have a feeling like I should defend open calls because I said so many nice things about our open call, but I think that I really have to defend it now. Okay, so the point is that we have so many programs, and it's in a way, yeah, it's a lot of work, because if you need to look at 150 applications and do the whole selection program, of course, it's like, you know, that for that month you don't do anything else. But it's for us, and I think it's really working. It's the way for new people approaching. And especially because we're so focused on artists that are like super young, and we're not like some kind of big educators, but we have this kind of a little bit, you know, we want to, in a way, encourage them to make portfolios that are good, but we're also making portfolio workshops. So it's not like we're just asking from them to, you know, make a good portfolio, but we're also having workshops to kind of teach them, because like it or not, this is in, you know, today's art world, it's how it's working. It's good to have a good portfolio, to maybe have, you know, any kind of web page, and to learn how to present yourself, and because it's necessary. And also, I think that for some people, having a deadline, it's going to make you finish, you know, your kind of idea and actually send it. Because before we had an open call all, you know, all year long. So sometimes, I mean, it's when you can apply anyone, I mean, it's harder to kind of get yourself and actually finish it. So, I mean, of course, I do understand that there's some kind of bad, you know, angles on that, on open calls. And we also have some shows that are by invitation, or that we organize ourselves, that we're curating, and that for that projects, we're inviting artists. But with this, we really, I think, reach some people that, especially people from the region, from abroad, that we would never meet in other way. And also, I think for this young artist, of course, we're following their work. We go to students' exhibitions, and we kind of know who they are. But I think that with open call, I mean, it's like they make a presentation about themselves, and they're kind of, you know, go to the world, and then we, of course, work with them and make shows. So yeah, this is the end of my defense on open calls.
I will just jump in here. I want to say it's funny that Bojan says so, and he's one of the artists selected through the open call for our project. But I can agree with both of you, actually. I think it's, in a way, it has its advantages and disadvantages. And from our case, I just want to say to having an open call for the regional artist was great, because we, although we couldn't select, there were so many great applications, and we could select them all. But we now have a quite a great base because we weren't. It is also pity that we are not communicating between our countries that much. So we are not super super connected in that way, or super introduced to our practices. But this was a great way to get to know some of the artists, and hopefully to have them their names and their portfolios for some collaborations in the future.
Just in my defense,
Bojan, we cannot hear you.
Now?
Oh, sorry. That's me.
Just in my defense, I wanted to say that I applied for your open call because you are not gallery. Your application is the only one application I sent this whole year. So I had around, I don't know, 4 or 5 solo exhibitions in the last year, and it's just enough, you know. So that's another problem with galleries and white cubes. I mean, there are some artists that are just, I don't know, fed up with white walls, you know. So this is why projects like Voice are great. I mean, for me, I don't know, but I know a lot of artists who thinks the same way. I rest my defense and case.
We don't have any more questions, but we have a comment from Paulina. Thank you so much. Okay, so if we are all, if you don't have any questions for us anymore, I mean, we will definitely keep in touch. And we want to thank you once again for participating in this talk. It was very interesting and great to hear about all of your projects, and we do hope to collaborate and to visit your spaces in the future. We would like to just add that this is first out of the series of the talks that we will have on this topic. So we will have another one in November this year, where we will host other initiatives and researchers. Yeah, follow us, and also our project is continuing until Saturday. So please do follow also our other artist talks, and the one with Bojan will be on Saturday. So, yeah, Marina, Christina, I don't know if you want to add something, or any of the participants, but that's all from my side. And thank you. It was really great.
I would just like to thank you as well. It was a really nice 1 hour and a half of conversation, and I think we could also continue all night, but let's leave that for another occasion, and we would be happy to welcome you in Croatia as well soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and from me as well. Thank you very much to everybody, and I'm sure that we will talk soon again. And greetings from Split.
Greetings from Albania.
Bye.
See you guys. Hope to see you in person for the next meeting.